Thor may have claimed that he and Jane Foster were on a break, but unlike Ross and Rachel, many Marvel fans think these two aren't getting back together. We'll reveal the difficult time Natalie Portman had while filming the first two Thor movies, and why she didn't appear in Ragnarok. But some comments made by the actress and Marvel Studios head Kevin Feige have given us hope that she may return to the MCU, possibly in a much bigger role. During Thor Ragnarok, we learned that Thor's family tree is even more complicated than we originally thought, and that even the god of thunder can have his heart broken sometimes. Although he insisted his breakup with astrophysicist Jane Foster was mutual, it sure sounded like he was still hurting over it. While Thor might be sad to say goodbye to Jane, many Marvel fans don't exactly feel the same. Marvel Studios does a lot of things very well, but they've notoriously struggled with creating compelling on-screen romances. Many fans have always felt that the romance between Thor and Jane was forced, and it was honestly hard to see what either of them got out of the relationship, especially Jane. MCU movie fans might not have thought much of Jane Foster, but to comic book fans, her on-screen characterization was even more disappointing. The comic book version of Jane is much more complex and interesting than the watered-down version we see in the MCU. But the real reason actress Natalie Portman didn't return for Ragnarok may have had more to do with behind-the-scenes drama than on-screen storytelling. Allegedly, Portman wasn't completely happy on the set of Thor, and by the time the second movie was ready to start filming, she was dealing with her newborn son. She had even considered a break from acting to focus on her child, but then it was announced that Patty Jenkins would be directing the project. Portman leapt at the chance to work with Jenkins, who she had recommended for the project. However, it was not meant to be. Jenkins ended up working for the enemy, and by that we mean DC, since she ended up directing Wonder Woman. According to some sources, the swap frustrated Portman, and when it was time to reshoot some scenes, she suddenly found herself unavailable. Thor: The Dark World is widely considered to be the weakest in the franchise, so it's possible Portman was simply unwilling to sink time into a movie which was destined to not be very good. Without commenting on Portman specifically, Marvel Studio head Kevin Feige did have some thoughts on the role of Jane Foster in the MCU. When asked about the breakup, he stated, "We wanted Thor to encounter somebody that was near his equal, and we wanted to pit him against a character who was much more his equal and in many ways his superior. While Jane certainly has her admirable qualities, it's not as if she can truly keep up with Thor in battle, and since fighting is his favorite hobby, it makes sense that their time together would come to an end eventually." So who's this new potential love interest Feige is talking about? The obvious answer seems to be someone we met in Thor Ragnarok, and no, we're not talking about Korg. If Thor needs someone who can stand by his side in battle, it's hard not to think of Valkyrie. Then there's Sif, a longtime companion of Thor, and someone he has a romantic history with in the comic books. Feige claims that since Sif was absent during the events of Ragnarok, she's still alive. Sif or Valkyrie seem like obvious choices, but there's someone you may be overlooking. Everyone knows that being able to wield Mjolnir is a big deal, but in the 2014 storyline Original Sin, Thor stops being able to use his hammer. It's okay, Thor, it happens to lots of guys. An unidentified woman soon takes possession of Mjolnir and immediately starts destroying every enemy she comes across, including Malekith the Accursed. Thor tries to take back his hammer, but even he's too intimidated by this powerful newcomer. Not only does he let her keep Mjolnir, but he also hands over the title of God of Thunder, and his name for good measure. As you've probably guessed, the new Thor was actually Jane Foster the whole time. This might have worked out in the comics, but could we ever see a female Thor in the MCU? When discussing the influence of comic books on Marvel fans, Feige once said, "Anything that's happened in the comics, even a female Thor, become great potentials and the ideas from which future movies can be born." And let's keep in mind that following the events of Infinity War, things are a bit precarious for all of our current Marvel heroes. Actor Chris Hemsworth has been portraying Thor for a very long time now, and it might be time for him to move on. If he's going to make a plausible exit from the MCU, Avengers Endgame certainly seems to be when it'll happen. But it might not even come down to choosing between Thors. In the comic books, when Thor gives Jane his name, he just goes by his last name instead, which is Odinson. Hey, lots of famous people have only one name. It could end up working well for him. Actor Karl Urban, who played Scourge in Ragnarok, has also stated that he thinks a female Thor could be a possibility in the future. Only time will tell if Jane Foster becomes one of the superheroes of the MCU. What do you think about the idea of Jane Foster returning to the MCU? Do you think Thor is better off without her, or would you like to see her back on the big screen? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more MCU content. Thanks for watching.